Jessica, and I'm with Image for the College Life magazine fitness department. We as students in this company care about the health and well-being of students. Many times we're too busy working and studying and don't take the time out to take care of our bodies. We are launching a health and fitness website to help students and give tips on how to stay healthy, how to eat right. Stay tuned, and I promise you will enjoy the helpful tips we have for you. Gotta run a class.